It's a strange feeling, isn't it? You think you're the one making the choice. You think you're the one deciding to take that turn, to open that book, to meet that person. But beneath the surface of what your conscious mind can grasp, something else has already whispered the outcome. Long before the thought enters your head, reality has already begun to shift. It's not magic. It's not luck. It's a deeper, older mechanism, something that has always existed, quietly orchestrating the symphony of your life, waiting for you to notice it. And the moment you do, everything changes. Imagine this: you're standing at a crossroads in your life. Maybe it's a new job, a relationship, a move, or a dream you've been holding inside for years. Your mind begins to analyze what's safe, what's logical, what's possible. But just before that analytical voice takes the stage, there's a flicker, a feeling, a sensation you can't explain. That flicker isn't random. It's the quantum field, the invisible ocean of potentiality, whispering what's already in motion. The decision you think you're making in the moment, it started long before you ever became aware of it. Here's what most people don't realize: the physical world isn't the starting point of manifestation. It's the final echo. The real genesis happens in the quantum field, a space beyond time and thought, where possibilities exist simultaneously. The conscious mind is the last to know. It's like a news anchor reporting on events that already happened. That's why, when people try to force reality with affirmations or rigid plans, they often feel stuck. They're trying to control something after the script has already been written. But what if, instead of trying to force the outcome, you learn to sense the quantum wave before it becomes a physical event? What if you tuned into the pre-decision, the pulse of reality just before your mind catches up? That's where true manifestation lies. Not in the push, but in the alignment. Think of your mind as a radio receiver. It doesn't create the music, it tunes into it. The station already exists, broadcasting continuously. If you're out of tune, all you hear is static, random thoughts, scattered emotions, frustration. But when you find the right frequency, everything clicks into place. The people you meet, the opportunities that arise, the doors that seem to open out of nowhere, they're not coincidences. They're the physical unfolding of quantum alignment. Many spiritual teachings speak about trusting the universe. But trust isn't passive. It's an act of active awareness. It's the moment you recognize that reality is not linear. The decision isn't made at the surface level of thought. The decision emerges in the quantum field, and then thought follows like a shadow. The key is learning how to sense that emergence. For example, imagine someone trying to manifest abundance. They might create a vision board, repeat mantras, or write affirmations over and over. But deep down, if their inner state is out of tune, the signal they're broadcasting into the quantum field is static. It's a mismatch between their surface desires and their deeper frequency. So nothing seems to shift, but when they drop beneath the noise, into stillness, into coherence, they start to feel the outcome before it happens. That's the difference between chasing reality and becoming the field that shapes it. Quantum manifestation isn't about controlling reality. It's about realizing you're already part of the mechanism that creates it. Your thoughts aren't isolated. They're entangled threads in a vast tapestry. That's why small intuitive nudges, gut feelings, and inexplicable synchronicities often precede major life shifts. The field speaks before the mind decides. Have you ever felt drawn to something with no logical explanation? Maybe a sudden urge to call someone, take a detour, or start a project. And later, it led to something bigger, something you couldn't have planned. That's not random. That's quantum manifestation at work. By the time you become aware of the impulse, the wave has already collapsed into a potential timeline. You're just stepping into it. When people say, "I manifested this," they're often describing the moment their awareness caught up with what was already set in motion. The power doesn't come from forcing outcomes. It comes from aligning with the frequency where those outcomes already exist. But alignment isn't just a buzzword. It's a real, tangible state. It's when your emotional field, your subconscious programs, and your energy all synchronize with a single timeline. In that state, reality bends, not because you commanded it, but because you became a clear channel for what was already meant to emerge. And this is where most people get stuck. They try to decide first and align later. But in the quantum process, it's reversed. Alignment comes first. Decision is merely the surface-level translation of what's already aligned underneath. The science is catching up to what mystics have said for centuries. Studies on pre-conscious neural activity show that decisions register in the brain seconds before we consciously choose. Your mind isn't the origin of choice, it's the interpreter. which means manifestation doesn't happen because you decide. Your decision happens because manifestation is already unfolding. This realization isn't meant to make you powerless. It's meant to free you. Because when you stop identifying with the surface level of thought, you gain access to the deeper field. You stop asking, how can I make this happen? And start asking, what am I already becoming? That shift changes everything. It's like stepping into a river. You can try to fight the current, or you can let it carry you toward the ocean. When you sense the current before you act, you begin to work with the quantum flow instead of against it. And suddenly, manifestation isn't about struggle, it's about precision. Every major shift in your life started before you were aware of it. Every relationship, every turning point, every so-called coincidence began as an unseen ripple in the quantum field. Your awareness is simply catching up to the wave. The question isn't whether manifestation works. The question is whether you've learned to listen soon enough. And when you do, when you learn to feel the decision before the decision, your life stops being reactive. It becomes intentional in the truest sense. Not because you're controlling reality like a dictator, but because you're collaborating with it like a co-creator. This is why the greatest manifestors don't rush, they tune in. They cultivate stillness, coherence, and a sense of inner readiness. Because when the signal is clear, the field responds with breathtaking precision. The right doors open, the right people appear, the right opportunities align, not because of luck, but because the decision was already written in the field, and they were awake enough to step into it. So the next time you have a big decision to make, don't rush to overthink. Listen. Feel the flicker beneath the thought. That's where quantum manifestation begins. Not in the noise of the mind, but in the quiet power of the field. When you start to realize that your conscious decision is not the true beginning, but a reflection of something deeper, everything about how you approach your life begins to shift. Instead of relying on your analytical mind to figure everything out, you begin to sense, to feel, to perceive the subtle signals that reality gives you before your thoughts even take shape. The universe doesn't shout, it whispers. And those whispers are the most powerful invitations you'll ever receive. We've all experienced moments where something just felt right. When you met someone and instantly knew they would play a big role in your life. When you walked into a room and sensed a change before it happened. When you followed a hunch that seemed irrational but led you to exactly where you needed to be. These are not coincidences. These are glimpses into the way reality truly works. By the time you become aware of that gut feeling, the field has already shifted around you. Most people, however, are trained to ignore these signals. Society has built its foundation on rationality, logic, and control. We're taught to plan everything meticulously, to trust what can be measured and seen. But the quantum field operates outside of that rigid framework. It exists before measurement, before logic, before awareness. And if you keep trying to manifest from the surface level, pushing, forcing, demanding outcomes, you miss the current that's already trying to carry you. The real art of quantum manifestation isn't about wishing harder. It's about listening deeper. It's about becoming still enough to catch the wave before it breaks. When you learn to recognize the pre-manifestation signals, you no longer waste your energy fighting what isn't meant for you. You move with a kind of precision that looks almost supernatural to the outside world. But in truth, you're simply aligning with what was already set in motion beneath the surface. This is why some people seem to glide through life. Opportunities seem to fall into their lap. Things just work out for them. It's not that they're luckier than you. It's that, consciously or unconsciously, they've learned to tune in. They've stopped arguing with the field and started dancing with it. Think about the most meaningful moments in your life. How many of them were planned down to the last detail? Probably very few. Most likely the biggest shifts happened in unexpected ways. A chance encounter. A random invitation. A split-second decision that didn't even feel like a decision. This is the quantum field in action. What feels spontaneous on the surface is often the result of a wave that began long before. And here's the beautiful part: you can learn to access that space consciously. The more attuned you become to subtle energy, the more clearly you sense what is alive in the field. The timelines that are ready to unfold. It's not about predicting the future with cold precision. It's about feeling which future is already vibrating with potential, like a string waiting to be plucked. When your inner state is scattered, the signal is weak. Your mind jumps between fears, doubts, and desires. But when your inner state becomes coherent, when your emotions, energy, and intention align, the signal strengthens. The field responds to clarity, not noise. This is why stillness, meditation, breathwork, or simply quiet walks in nature can be so powerful. They don't create the manifestation. They allow you to tune in to what's already emerging. It's like looking into a still pond. When the water is turbulent, all you see is distortion. But when it's calm, the reflection is clear. The quantum field is that pond. Your inner state determines whether you can perceive its reflection or not. This is why so many people misunderstand manifestation. They think it's about saying the right words, repeating the right affirmations, doing the right rituals. But the truth is, words are secondary. The field doesn't respond to what you say. It responds to what you are. And who you are is determined by your vibration, your coherence, your alignment with the frequency of the outcome. If, for example, you're trying to manifest love, but your underlying energy is rooted in fear, desperation, or lack, the field picks up the fear, not the words. It hears the static beneath the surface. So even as you speak of love, you're radiating lack. But when you become love, when your energy carries the signature of already being complete, the field responds instantly. It matches your vibration because it already exists as a potential timeline. And this is where the most profound shift happens. You stop asking, how can I make this happen? And start asking, what frequency am I broadcasting? Because once your signal matches the outcome, the decision has already been made in the field. The people you're meant to meet begin to feel a nudge to reach out. Opportunities begin to align in ways you couldn't have planned. Doors that seemed closed begin to creak open. And all of it happens before your logical mind catches up. This doesn't mean you stop acting. Manifestation isn't about sitting in silence, waiting for the world to fall into your lap. It's about right action at the right time. It's about sensing when the wave has built enough momentum to carry you. When that happens, your actions are no longer fueled by desperation or force. They're carried by alignment, and that's why they feel effortless. If you've ever experienced a flow state, you already know this feeling. It's the sensation that everything is happening through you, not because of you. The next step reveals itself without struggle. The right words come out of your mouth at the perfect moment. The opportunities you need appear almost as if reality is conspiring in your favor. That's quantum manifestation in motion. But here's something crucial: you can't fake alignment. You can't trick the field with positive thinking layered over fear. It sees through masks. It responds to the real signal beneath the surface. That's why self-awareness is so important. You must be honest about the frequency you're broadcasting, even when it's uncomfortable. If fear is present, acknowledge it. If doubt arises, don't suppress it. Bring it into awareness, breathe into it, and realign. Because manifestation doesn't require perfection. It requires presence. The field doesn't respond to polished masks. It responds to genuine coherence. And when you reach that state, you no longer need to constantly question whether things are working. You can feel the shift before it happens. It's a quiet certainty, not the loud excitement of forced hope, but the deep knowing of a timeline already chosen. And the beauty of it all is that this process doesn't belong to a few special people. It's not a gift reserved for mystics or gurus. It's your birthright. It's how reality has always worked. The only difference is that some people learned to listen, while others got lost in the noise of their own minds. The moment you stop trying to control reality from the top down and start collaborating with the deeper current, everything changes. Decisions no longer feel heavy. Manifestation no longer feels like a battle. Life stops being a puzzle to solve and becomes a wave to ride. And here's something most people miss when you align with the field. It's not just about getting what you want. It's about stepping into what's meant for you. The quantum field doesn't just give you random outcomes. It mirrors the most authentic version of your frequency. That means the opportunities, people, and experiences that align with your true self, not the mask, not the fear, not the projection. That's why alignment always feels light, fluid, and effortless. When you feel resistance, it's usually not because the universe is against you. It's because you're trying to force a timeline that isn't aligned with your deeper frequency. The field isn't denying you. It's redirecting you towards something that resonates more deeply. When you learn to trust that, life becomes less about struggle and more about flow. The truth is, most people live their lives on a delay. They react to what's already happened, mistaking it for something they're in control of. They believe their thoughts because they're reality, when in fact, their thoughts are often just the echoes of reality already unfolding beneath their awareness. This delay is why so many people struggle with manifestation. They're trying to steer the car after the turn has already been made. But once you learn to sense what happens before your mind decides, the entire landscape shifts. You begin to see the quiet patterns underneath the noise, the invisible architecture of your reality. You start to trust the subtle impulses that once felt random. Those nudges, those whispers, are not coincidences. They're invitations from the quantum field, telling you which timeline is already vibrating into form. Think of it like standing on the shore, watching waves roll in. You can't control the ocean. But if you learn to read the water, to feel the pull of the tide, you can know exactly when to dive in and let the wave carry you. This is how the greatest manifestations happen, not through force but through flow, and it all begins with awareness. Before every big decision in your life, there's a space, a sliver of silence, a flicker of something that isn't quite a thought, not yet a word. It might feel like a soft pressure in your chest, a warm sensation in your gut, a pulse in the air around you. Most people ignore it, rushing into their rational mind for answers. But if you pause and listen to that flicker, you step into the moment where reality is still fluid, where timelines are still forming. That space is sacred. That space is where quantum manifestation truly begins. When you attune yourself to that space, your entire relationship with reality becomes less about control and more about collaboration. You stop trying to hammer your desires into existence and instead learn to weave them into the fabric of what already wants to emerge. That's the great paradox. When you stop grasping, the field responds more clearly. When you stop pushing, the wave carries you further. This is why stillness is not weakness. It's power. Not the loud, aggressive power that tries to dominate reality, but the quiet, unshakable power of someone who trusts the current. This kind of trust doesn't come from blind faith. It comes from direct experience, from seeing over and over that the field speaks before the mind, and when you listen, life unfolds with precision you could never have planned. But what does this look like in real life? Imagine someone standing at a career crossroads. They've made lists, weighed pros and cons, asked for advice. But deep down, before all the thinking began, there was a flicker, a pull toward a certain path. The mind came in later with its fears, its justifications, its doubts. If they ignore the flicker and follow only the logic, they might end up in a job that looks perfect on paper, but feels lifeless inside. But if they trust the flicker, that quiet signal from the field, they step into a timeline that's already resonating with who they truly are. That's not recklessness. That's resonance. You can start to practice this in small ways. Every day, there are dozens of micro decisions. What to say, where to go, who to call, what to pursue. If you begin tuning into the pre-thought impulse before those decisions, you'll notice that reality often aligns in unexpected, elegant ways. The right person appears at the right moment. A conversation leads to a door you didn't even know existed. Opportunities seem to find you. And this is the point where people who understand this principle begin to live in a different rhythm. They no longer operate from frantic effort. They move from a calm, grounded center. It's not that challenges disappear. It's that they meet them with a sense of clarity that others can feel. Because when you're aligned with the field, you don't need to shout at reality. You simply become magnetic to the timeline that matches your frequency. This magnetism is real. It's not mystical fantasy. The field responds to coherence. When your inner state is unified, when your energy, emotions, and intentions are in harmony, the signal you emit is strong. It draws matching timelines toward you like iron filings to a magnet. That's why some people seem to manifest effortlessly. It's not effortlessness in the sense of doing nothing. It's effortlessness in the sense of moving in harmony with what's already unfolding. And here's the most important part: the flicker doesn't lie. Your logical mind can rationalize almost anything. It can convince you to stay in situations that no longer serve you, to chase outcomes that don't resonate, to cling to fears disguised as safety. But the flicker, that pre-decision impulse, is pure. It's the language of the field. It bypasses fear. It speaks through sensation, intuition, subtle awareness. The more you learn to trust that language, the less you need external validation. You stop asking the world for permission to follow what's already aligned. You stop waiting for signs that are already inside you. And that's when manifestation accelerates. Not because the universe suddenly decides to favor you, but because you finally stopped resisting it. Of course, this doesn't mean everything becomes easy or predictable. The field is fluid. It moves in ways the mind can't always map. But that's the beauty of it. Manifestation isn't about controlling the entire ocean. It's about surfing the right wave. And when you surf the right wave, even the challenges you face become part of the momentum that carries you forward. Here's a simple truth. You've already manifested more than you realize. Your current reality is the result of signals you've been broadcasting for years, some conscious, most unconscious. But now, by tuning into the pre-decision space, you gain access to the source instead of the echo. That's where real power lives. And that power isn't loud, it's quiet, it's steady. It's the quiet knowing in your bones that the path is unfolding even before you name it. It's the still confidence that allows you to take bold steps without needing a guarantee. It's the kind of trust that turns ordinary people into creators of extraordinary realities. When you begin living like this, life stops feeling like a constant battle to prove yourself. You no longer spend your energy fighting the current. You start flowing with it, aligning with it, dancing with it. Manifestation stops being something you do and becomes something you are. The decisions you make no longer feel like leaps into the dark. They feel like stepping stones that were already there, waiting for your foot to land. That's because, in a way, they were. The timeline was always vibrating beneath the surface. Your awareness just finally caught up. And that is the essence of quantum manifestation. It happens before your mind decides. The wave begins long before the thought. The field speaks before the word. And once you learn to listen to that whisper, reality itself begins to feel like a living, breathing conversation. The universe is not silent, it's speaking constantly. The question is, are you quiet enough to hear it? So the next time you feel that flicker, that gentle, almost imperceptible pull toward something, don't rush to rationalize it away. Don't drown it out with noise. Listen, trust it. Because that flicker may be the moment where your future has already begun to unfold. And when you follow that, when you align with what's already emerging, your life doesn't just change, it transforms, not through force, not through struggle, but through resonance, through flow. Through the deep knowing that the decision was already made long before your mind ever got involved. This is quantum manifestation in its purest form. It's not about forcing your will onto the world. It's about aligning with the wave that was always meant for you. And when you do, reality bends. Not because you're controlling it, but because you've finally learned to listen.